You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hey, it's that time again. It is time for a week in the life. I did this last year. It was more well received than I anticipated because to me, I know my life, I live it. I'm here every day doing that thing called my life, but sharing my life had some unexpected feedback, some things that I didn't know what happened from me putting it out there, like people recognizing opportunities to do things differently with their schedules or with their tasks or their business or their families. And I was so appreciative of having that share. So if you listened to last year, great. If not, you definitely don't need to listen to this year's. But this seems to be something that I will be doing on a yearly basis. And I'm grateful because this gives me an opportunity to look at what's changed, to reflect on my year and to see where I'm going. So you don't have to have a podcast to do this, but I highly recommend it because, oh man, sometimes you just see people doing the Groundhog Day year after year. It's not even a day. It's like Groundhog Decade or decades, unfortunately, for some. And they might recognize, you might recognize, I might recognize dissatisfaction along the way, or goals or desires, and not do anything about them. But I tell you what, when you look at yourself on a regular basis, and I'm not saying that yearly is enough, to be perfectly honest, I think, and I have ways of reflecting throughout the year, but when you increase your awareness of what's going on in your life, the habits that you're repeating that maybe you don't want to, the things that you'd like to improve upon, then you actually have a chance of making the moves necessary to achieve those differences. Because as you may have heard me say before, we get very comfortable in our discomfort. It can be a lot more comfortable, let's say, to keep your marriage how it is, even though it's not satisfying, than to tell your spouse what you'd like to see happening differently, especially when you know that some of that may require you to change also. We often would love to just, point a finger and say, oh, you just change. Everything will get better for me if you just change. But as we do more self-work, as we become more aware, and as we take responsibility for our own emotional well-being, we realize that the true changes that we are looking for come from us. That we are the only one that really has control over making those differences happen. I am the one thing in life I can control, right? So take a look at your life and then make those choices that are uncomfortable so that you can actually get to a place where you are genuinely comfortable and happy and fulfilled and purposeful through that uncomfortable road. It never gets comfortable, guys. So it's like you can be uncomfortable doing the thing that you're familiar with, which your nervous system and brain just love because they're like, oh, we know how to do this. Or you can be uncomfortable doing the unknown stuff that feels a little bit scary, but that actually gets you where you want to go. Either way, guess what? You're not comfortable. But one way actually gets you to the place of fulfillment, maybe even some peace, some confidence, some clarity, all that good stuff. The other one is that Groundhog Day, week, month, year, or decade of just living in that same familiar uncomfortableness and honestly ending up with a lot of regret. So anyway, that's my preamble to this and my thank you for allowing me to review things with you. If you listen to last year's episode, you already know that last year I had 4 boys in 5 schools, and there were 2 preschools for my youngest. And I didn't have a whole lot of large chunks of time more than 2.5 hours usually, where I could really work in my business. And it just made for very inefficient time. I might get to see one or two clients in that time, but it was tough. So I made the best of it. I still saw my clients last year. I still advanced my business, and we were still, in the midst of a pandemic, as we are still. And, you know, the show goes on. So I made the best of it. But the biggest difference in my week in the life this year is that all four of my boys are in full day school now. But also, we still have COVID. We still have, RSV and flu and all that stuff has been really rampant in our area. I believe that's kind of across the board for people. But I feel like there has not been a full week when my entire family has been healthy this year. And I can say thank goodness that nothing that we've been, struck with has been really debilitating or honestly even kept us back from much else than school or, having a lot of energy. But it's still a drain. And it's the same drain for me as a work from home mom of not knowing every day, hey, do I get to like do my schedule the way I know is going to really be satisfying? Or do I have to choose a different type of satisfying because now I have one, two, three kids home from school? Thankfully, I don't think I've had four home at the same time at any point this year. But, are people going to need to be home? Or they need to go to the doctor? Do I have to run to the drugstore? Like, how is my day changing? And so that's always a variable. And I think, even for people that, especially for people that don't work from home and have that flexibility, I know that can be really stressful because, you have to, it's a pain. So everybody understands this, no matter what your work or stay at home scenario is. But that's the biggest difference for me this year is that I actually have like a calendar where people and my clients can book in, and I have larger frameworks of hours available, and it's amazing. But does that mean that I have more time? No, right? We all kind of just expand to what we're given, and that's that. But the point of this episode is a week in the life. So let me take you through this week, what's been going on, what's about to be going on, and, catch you up. So a normal morning for me on a weekday now begins with my alarm going off, but usually not because I almost always wake up before my alarm. And I use that time before I would need to get up normally to do some self-hypnosis or some meditation or something like that. I have like a headband earphones thing because I can't sleep with earbuds and they bother my ears and stuff. But the headband ones kind of lay on top of my ears and I can still get the benefits of hypnosis or binaural beats that, utilize left and right ear separate audios and things like that. And also relax, meditate, even sometimes go to sleep with it on. Love it. So early morning hours, you can usually find me with my headband headphones on, doing meditation or hypnosis, or even just lulling back to sleep that way. And then I normally get up and out of bed between 4:30 and 4:45. And from there, if my husband's around, he travels a lot. And in this week that I'm reviewing, he's traveling for 3 of the 7 days. So if he's here, then we normally get up and we get ready to do a workout together. It's also time that we have like together. So, we can do whatever we want with that time. And I'm not going to review that on my podcast. But mornings are like the time that typically the kids are actually asleep. The house is quiet and we have hour and a half to get a workout in, get showered and ready for our day, catch up with each other, and prepare things for the kids' day. So if the kids haven't emptied the dishwasher the night before, we empty the dishwasher. I get the kids' water bottles ready for school, make sure their snacks are in their backpacks, lay out their, whatever they need for the day. And then we get a workout in. So And that depends on what we are doing. Sometimes we're doing a workout program where we know exactly what workout we're doing. Sometimes we take a walk. Sometimes we just press play on some other home workout. We have a lot of equipment that we can use in our basement home gym. And so we just head down there, and the dogs frolic around us at this time. We got to feed the dogs before we work out too and let them out to go to the bathroom. And then they normally come down and they either play with each other or try to get our attention or take turns going inside and outside throughout our workout. They're a little needy and high energy in the morning, but it's fun to be around them. And of course, if our workouts have us on the floor, doing ab work or planks or anything that has us at a low level, then of course they want to come over and give us hugs and kisses and everything else. So it's all nice. And most days the kids sleep through it. There was one morning this week that my 9-year-old came down and said that my 5-year-old was having a nightmare, but we go up and check, and a lot of times he's just making a noise in his sleep, and the other one's just, I guess, trying to be considerate and get him help, or maybe he just wants a little attention before he goes back to bed. Who knows? Kids do what kids do, and it's cute. So we work out, we get ready for the day, and then I'm waking up my youngest two, if it's a school day, around 6:25 to 6:30. The bus comes around 7:05 to 7:10 for them. So it gives us about a half an hour, and it's always unpredictable with my younger two, what's going on in the morning. My older two are more clockwork, but with the younger two, they could wake up in an amazing mood and be happy and, easygoing, or they could wake up acting like, it's the end of the world and be in a bad mood. Sometimes my little one is all freaked out about light. It's too bright, my eyes hurt, that kind of stuff. And sometimes he just pops out of bed like he's been just waiting for me, even though he's almost always asleep when I go in to get him. So I never know what I'm getting. So I always have a little bit of buffer time, because you don't know how patient you're going to need to be while you coax whatever needs to be handled out of them and soothe it and keep them moving towards their agenda for the day. And then sometimes, they're in a bad mood because they're sick, and then I need to take a temperature or find some medicine or give them some extra love and attention. So it's like the day really starts there, where it's like, how is this day really going to pan out? People are going to school. Are they staying home? Are they happy? Are they sad? What do they need from me? So we get up, we have breakfast, we get dressed, we get their book bags ready, and then we walk out. The bus picks them up right on our corner. So our house is on the corner, and the bus is right there. It's lovely because we just have to walk out and get on the bus. And normally I play fetch with our younger dog. Our older dog really stopped playing fetch this spring, which is sad, but he's also 10. He's having some issues, it seems like, with some of his legs not feeling so good, the joints, maybe the hips, and he's getting a lot of like the old doggy tumors and things. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but he's definitely getting up there in years and slowing down in his activity. But he loves coming out and just coming to the corner of our property, standing there, watching, if there's other people out walking their dogs, he watches them, he sniffs the air, he walks around. Every now and then he still chases a ball, but it's not anything like it was even just a year ago. Like when we got that puppy in February, he taught that puppy how to fetch, and he was so happy to play fetch every day. And then it really like died down a few months later, and he's just been a lot slower and seemingly in more discomfort. So play fetch with the dogs, the kids get on their bus, and then it's normally about 10 after 7. So my oldest is also up at this time getting ready for high school. And he's normally sitting at the kitchen table when I go back inside, having some cereal for his breakfast. So we catch up if there's anything that we need to talk about. He's now driving to school. Last year, he was still working on getting his license when I recorded this episode. That's a big change. And he's also has a job. So there's a lot of changes in his world, and it's college application time. He's a senior in high school. So there's a lot of things for us to talk about and do together right now that require us, coming together and doing things like getting ready for college. So it's nice to have that. And it's just this whole new chapter that I haven't experienced yet. And he hasn't either. So it's fun to do it together. And so we talk for a few minutes, and then he normally goes up and gets a morning shower. And I have a few minutes where if there's some little things I need to do, whether it's tasks for my business or little things around the house, I normally do that. And I'll start making a bagel or something for my middle schooler. Sometimes I need to make something for my high schooler too. I don't need to, I offer to, and I'm happy to. Just like I don't need to really do anything other than take care of the little ones getting out for school. The middle schooler and the high schooler could be totally self-sufficient and do it. I like being there with them. This is something that I feel like is a privilege. I get to do it. I enjoy doing it. And if I can help them make a breakfast or make a snack for school or pack something for them or fill a water bottle or put a piece of clothing in the dryer so it's ready for them to wear, whatever needs to be done, I kind of reserve that time first and foremost for them so that they feel supported and they get off to their day without feeling frazzled or stressed or alone. So that's important to me. That's a me thing. None of them are saying you've got to do this, mom, although I think there'd be this abrupt difference if I stopped. So I use that time and then I get my middle schooler up around like 7:35-ish. He normally takes 15 or 20 minutes to get up. He has longer hair. He normally has some knots he has to get out of it and get dressed. And then he comes down and I hang out in the kitchen with him while he eats his breakfast. And then I'm available. Again, whatever he needs, I'm there. He normally doesn't need much. He normally goes and plops on the couch and watches some YouTube videos on his phone, or we talk about something or whatever until we have to get ready to go outside around 8:20 for his bus. And again, dogs come out, we play some more fetch, get him going. And then once he leaves, then the day it's mine. So that's like 8:30. So my youngest ones are the first to come home in the afternoon. Their bus drops them off around 2:45. So I always figure like from 8:30 until 2:30, because I do like to have a little bit of time to just tidy up my mind and anything like dishes or whatever that maybe I've had throughout the day while I've been at home working in before they get home from school. And then I really feel like I'm in a good place to meet them. So between 8:30 and 2:30, it depends on the day what I am doing. So this week I had how many? Gosh, I'm going to look at my actual calendar. I had several podcast recordings on Monday. And yeah, so the day started, I got my middle schooler off to school and then I had a few minutes, had some breakfast, and then I had my own like life coaching session for me. You guys know, I always say, if you're going to work with a coach or a practitioner or therapist, please make sure they are also getting therapy or coaching for themselves. It just makes a huge difference and not everybody does. So make sure the people that you're choosing to work with are practicing what they preach. So I went to my life coaching session and got some great advice on something that I had been struggling with. And then at 9:30, I had a recording for my own podcast. So that was last week's episode, actually, with Cara D'Onofrio. And we had an awesome conversation about the energetics of real estate and manifesting and so much more. It was really a fun conversation and an interesting meeting between the two of us in the first place. So check out that episode if any of that speaks to you. And then after I got done recording with Cara, I had a very short period of time before I was a guest on the Podcast Rebels show. And so we recorded that. And then that went directly into my next podcast guesting interview, which was with Patrick Martin for the Mental Health Toolbox. And then that went right into my final guesting appearance of the day, which was with Gaynate Jones for the Freedom Slay podcast. So 3 back-to-back guesting interviews following my own interviewing of someone. It was a very busy day of doing interviewing, but from a standpoint of like my work and being able to keep my virtual assistants busy and things like that, that's a lot of material that I get to hand off that they get to create social media from and blogs and all sorts of things that we do with the transcriptions and the video itself. So it provided a lot of work for them for the week. And when I know that their work is lined up, then I get to dive into some deeper work that I really can't receive help with. And that's good too. So I made space for that by creating a lot of things to do and also by, knocking out a lot of interviews that were great opportunities for me to get to know these new hosts. I love getting to know podcast hosts. There's always these really interesting ways that we get to support each other in life and business, and also to have the privilege of being shared with their audiences and perhaps introducing modalities like emotional freedom techniques or other philosophies and viewpoints that I have to an audience that maybe isn't familiar with them. That's always like such a privilege to me. Oftentimes I am the first person on someone's show to speak about some of the techniques that I use, and it's such an honor to get to share that, because again, if you've been listening to me for a while, like I think that the modalities that I use are things that like kids should be learning in preschool. And when I get to be the person that shares it with someone, because I know how impacted I was by the person that shared it with me, I just feel a lot of joy in that and purpose in that and honor in that. So Monday was a day of a lot of sharing, a lot of great conversations. And then my husband got home. He actually got out of work early because he had a dentist appointment, but he still got home around the same time that he normally does, 4:30. And we had a family dinner together and did kind of the normal evening things. So we got the kids' lunches packed, make sure, their clothes are ready for school the next day, make sure their homework's done, all that kind of stuff, the parenting. And I believe we also had some time, just the two of us, while the kids were doing other things, to sit and, watch a little bit of Netflix together. We're a little late to the party, but we're really enjoying From Scratch right now. I don't think my husband was at first, but I think he is enjoying it now. And I think we still have a couple episodes left, so don't spoil it for me. Depending on our week, sometimes we watch a couple or a few episodes, and sometimes weeks go by in between watching. So we never know. But this week we did get to watch 2 episodes, which was that's like a lot of TV for me in a week. Honestly, I watch very little. So I'm enjoying that particular series, I guess you would call that. And we did that on Monday evening. We normally are getting the kids ready for bed. So we'll have dinner. If we have dinner at home, then we kind of clean up the kitchen. I always say restore the kitchen to factory settings. And when we're lucky, we get some help from the kids with that. And also when we're lucky, sometimes we don't get some help from the kids with that. Sometimes it's just easier to just let them go do their thing. Like, hey, go get your showers, get started on your evening routine, and we'll take care of it, versus the constant, okay, now you wipe the table. Hey, you do the dishes. Hey, bring that over from the table. Sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself. But also I want to instill those habits in them. So we do try to, sometimes I'll just be like, nobody's leaving the kitchen until it's restored to factory settings. And they know, we're all in this until this kitchen looks amazing again. So that was our cleanup. And then we head into the kids getting showers. Sometimes we need showers, and doing all that kind of stuff in the evening, getting ready for bed. We kind of have a tradition with the younger 2 at this point, where the older one, my 9-year-old, likes to watch some YouTube videos or something up on our TV. And he's usually doing that while we are finishing getting the younger one ready for bed. And then come 8 o'clock-ish, I say because it can vary widely, but ultimately 8 o'clock, we watch a couple episodes of Bluey, which is my 5-year-old's favorite show. And then my 9-year-old goes to bed, we tuck him in, and my 5-year-old stays in bed, and we listen to Close Your Eyes, Sleepy Paws, which is a sleep story on the Calm app that I'm pretty sure we have listened to most nights for about the last 3+ years. So we pretty much know it by heart. I almost always fall asleep for some part of it. At this point, it's like hypnosis to me. And it used to be that Jordan would fall asleep during it. That's my youngest. But most of the time now, he stays awake through the whole thing. And then when he's done, he's like, good night, mommy. I'm going to go to bed now. And a lot of times my husband will either carry him down or he'll walk down with him. If my husband's traveling, he'll hold my hand and walk down the hallway with me to his room and get tucked in. And he has these series of things that he always says to me. He says this when he gets on the bus in the morning. He says this when he goes to bed at night. But and sometimes he says it more than once, but he'll say, mommy, you're my love heart. You're my dream heart. You're my Lego heart. You're my angel heart. I love you. Have a good night. Sweet dreams. And, see you in the morning, that kind of stuff. And he'll say the same thing when he's getting on the bus in the morning. And, don't forget all those things. Don't forget all the hearts that you are. And sometimes he adds things to it also. It's so, so sweet. It melts my heart every time. And he's been doing it for a very, very long time. We used to just be each other's love hearts, but now he has all these different versions of hearts that I am to him. And I am honored to be every single one of them and to have that be something that's just special between the two of us. So that's kind of how the routine stuff goes. That's a routine morning, that's a routine evening, and that was kind of how Monday went. Now, Tuesday was a normal morning. Okay, just like I've already described. And then I had a little bit of time to work before I saw two clients back to back between 10 and noon. And then I had another podcast guesting experience with Adia Gooden from the Unconditionally Worthy podcast. So she interviewed me at noon. So I was pretty much tied up. I always do prep before my clients. So I was tied up from the time that I got my middle schooler on the bus until about 1:30 in the afternoon when I had finished that podcast interview and also like handed off all of the materials from things to my assistant. So at that point, I had like an hour before the kids get home and I still had all the normal stuff of the day to do. So days like that can sometimes feel a little overwhelming. And that's actually one of the things that I'm looking at changing my calendaring for in the new year, because my business and my podcast guesting and hosting has grown so much. All three of those things have grown exponentially in the last year. And now I'm looking at, is there a day of the week that I either want to take every week as a day off, not a day off, but like a day where I don't do appointments and I can literally just catch up on my ish and figure stuff out? Or do I want to rotate that day and pick different days? Also looking at different things that I want to do with the buffering of my appointments, because I have found that I'm a lot more efficient if I can see a client and then I have the hour after that to prepare for their next session. And I also enjoy having some time before their session to really get into the energy of that client. I give a lot to my clients and I don't see a ton of clients over the course of the year. So it's very important to me to give my best to my clients and to know that they're getting a good experience and what they came for. So I'm looking at some calendar changes and I bring that up because you might have the same thing. It might just not feel right the way that your calendar is set up or the time that you have between appointments or the way that you allow things to be scheduled. For most of this year, I have allowed my calendars to be the same as far as the hours that were offered, whether it was a client, a podcast recording, a podcast guesting, a coffee chat, which I do for like networking and also for recording tapping sessions for podcasts sometimes, or a new client or a potential client breakthrough session where I'm like offering insights and really brainstorming with that person about ways that they can get through their challenges that they're having at that point. So I would have the same calendar hours for all of the different things that I did virtually with others. And I've learned energetically that I don't like mixing client meetings and podcast guesting on the same day very much. I don't like having more than two clients on any given day. And I don't like doing more than 3 podcast interviews in a day. And there's some things I don't enjoy allowing on my weekends. So client-based things, I'm okay with making time for on my weekends, but I don't like doing podcast recording or podcast guesting on the weekend unless it's a solo episode like this and I can record it on my own time and I choose to. So I'm creating a lot of new calendar boundaries and buffer zones so that my schedule has the spaciousness that I want it to have. Because I've noticed a lot of resistance and a lot of anxious feelings from myself when my calendar gets overbooked. So it's very important for me to maintain my own positive and spacious energy, and calendaring seems to be a direct link to feelings that don't feel good for me. So I'm just going to leave that right there. I don't have a better way to explain it, but perhaps if you have a calendar like mine that gets many different types of things booked on it and can get overcrowded, you understand. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, another normal morning for the kiddos. However, it was an early dismissal day. So 2 hours shorter than normal. And I had 2 clients that I was seeing in the morning. So that honestly took up the majority of the time that my kiddos were at school. And that's okay. But that extra time that I would normally have in addition to seeing 2 clients to do all the other normal tasks of the day was definitely missed. So, and at that point too, my husband had left on Wednesday for a 3-day business trip. So the kids came home early and it's just, me and them. And I had an appointment to take my middle schooler to that evening, ended up taking everyone with me for that and picking up dinner. And my older son met us back home in time for us to eat some dinner together after we got home. And then I had a seminar type meeting to attend myself for some work I do with an EFT organization that evening. So fed the kids, got them kind of off and doing their own things for the evening. And then from 7 to 8, I was in a seminar that was only offered at that time. Otherwise, I don't really choose to work evenings unless I have to. So that was Wednesday. And I also tend to, and most of these days I did this too, get out for 20 minutes and take a walk. Sometimes I do that in that little pocket of time between when I get my youngest ones on the bus and when I need to wake up my middle schooler. It's a great time to get in a mile, sometimes a mile and a half. And that feels really good. It's a nice way to start my day. And usually there's a little bit of a sunrise to catch in that time also, which I really do enjoy. So the things that I do that are more ritualistic or enjoyable get kind of popped in throughout the day. I used to do a lot more afternoon meditation before my kids were in full day school. And now the time of day when I would normally go sit with myself or lay down, do meditation or hypnosis is really, really valuable work time. And I've also noticed that a lot of the things I'm doing to regulate my nervous system and to make sure that my energy is really good have made it so that I don't feel like the walking dead who needs to go lay down or needs to meditate. I've also noticed that when I don't do it for 3 or 4 days in a row, I regret not having done it for those 3 or 4 days in a row. So I've almost pushed back to the point where sometimes now when my kids get home from school, if I'm free after that point, then I'll see them home from school. We normally have a snack together or something. And then around 3 or 3:15, I will go meditate or do hypnosis for 15 to 30 minutes. And then that breaks my day between work and starting the evening with the kids and all the things that need to be done around the house very nicely and refreshes me well without me feeling like I gave up really sacred and valuable limited time to get work done. And knowing that my kids pretty much, they like to unwind. They like to get home. They like to have a snack. We catch up on the day. And then they just want to chill for a little bit. It's been a long day for them too. So that doesn't look like meditation or hypnosis for them, but sometimes it looks like watching a show or just intently building with Legos or whatever. And that's fine. We all need our alone time to do the things that feel good to us. So that's a lot of times how the afternoon goes. I just want to make sure that I'm expressing in this that I do make time throughout the day, every single day, to check in with myself, to take a deep breath, to maybe do a lightning round of EFT if it's all I have time for, or to do some hypnosis or meditation. 95% of the time, I do it in the morning before I wake up also. And then it's a second bit of it in the afternoon. But I've gotten much better at carving time out for myself. And I say that to encourage you because I know so many people don't meditate or do any kind of practices on a regular basis and they don't feel like they have time. And I totally was of that camp until I started making time. And at this point, the more I add in of that kind of stuff, the more productive and happy and fulfilled I am during the time that I'm working. So I never feel like it's taking away from me. It's always adding to my cup, adding to my energy, adding to my ability and capability and good feelings, which means that I'm not sacrificing getting things done or being the best I can be at what I'm doing to do that. And that should be obvious and not need to be stated. But I think a lot of times that gets overlooked when people put things like exercise or breath work or meditation or EFT or even therapy or coaching on the back burner. They feel like they're going to somehow fall short in the things they're already feeling crappy about. Instead of, they're going to feel better about those things and function more efficiently and enjoy their life more while they're doing it. So instead, there's this cycle of, I'm just going to keep beating myself up and I'm never going to have the time because I'm not good enough and I'm not getting enough done, instead of surrounding yourself with the self-love, the compassion, the forgiveness, and the acceptance to really be your best and feel good about all the things that you're doing and accepting the things that maybe you're not doing. So that's really important to understand. Now, back to the week. Thursday, hubby's still gone, and the kids have a normal day of school Thursday. So on Thursday, I had an appointment for myself in the morning to go see a doctor. So that took about 2 hours out of my morning, half hours travel time and check in, another half hour to get home and to get settled back in, and about an hour there at the office. So I got my last one off to school, and then I had about 35 minutes to just kind of check in. It wasn't much time to really get into deep work myself. So I kind of checked in with my VAs and sent some tasks their way, caught up on some things, went to the doctor. And then I got home and I had enough time for lunch and kind of regrouping and prepping for 2 client sessions in the afternoon. So, and again, this week is an example of what I'm trying to avoid as I recalendar, because I don't want to do clients back to back. I like doing podcast interviews back to back because that's more of like an energy that I just get into and stay into. But with clients, I feel like I need time between them to like shift from the energy of one to the other and to really shift my focus too. So 2 clients back to back in the afternoon, and also a pre-call for a podcast to see if we were, a good fit to for me to be on her show. So all of that was Thursday afternoon. And then the kids got home from school, and I believe my oldest worked that night. So it was just kind of an evening with the 3 younger ones, made some dinner, hung out, got some housework done, did laundry. I had not had time to fold laundry all week, and I didn't end up having time. Thank goodness my husband like knocked it out when he got home. We literally had, we always call it laundry mountain, but there was probably at least 7 loads of laundry waiting for him, just piled up on our bedroom floor. And God love him, he got it all knocked out on Saturday morning. But Thursday was pretty much just a normal day, and snuggled up with the kids. I think we watched a little like holiday movie or something that we had recorded on the DVR Thursday evening. And then Friday was another normal day of school for them. And I had the day pretty open, but I was recording an episode for my podcast with Winnie Chan Wang in the afternoon. So that'll be coming out soon. You can look forward to that. Great conversation about shadow work and holistic healing, compassionate healing, really good stuff. So I really enjoyed my time with Winnie in the afternoon on Friday. And I got my week outlined. It normally takes me at least an hour every week to look at like, what have I done this week? What needs to get done next week? What are the real goals? What's the busy work? What really needs my focus? And how much time do all the different things that need to be done take? And then I can kind of parse things up and figure out like, this is a good day to do it. This isn't a good day to do it. I don't have any work time on this particular day. So I really need to just give myself grace and do the things that are already on the schedule, all that kind of stuff. It's a combination of mindset and scheduling and flexibility and grace and grit, all kind of coming together into scheduling that normally takes me at least an hour every week. So I did that on Friday and just figured out stuff. And also planning the weekend. It's really tough for me when my husband travels at the end of the week, because normally during that time, we're kind of planning for the weekend and what we're going to do. And we don't tend to talk as much or communicate as much when he's not here. It's another thing that we're actually trying to work on so that we don't get into this jam. But come Saturday, we were all home and we had no plan. And that is sometimes the most tense energy in my family, because we all like to know, like, what are we doing today? When are we doing it? Like, who's doing what? Like, what's my role here? How can I fulfill it? Let's enjoy this day. But when we don't have a plan, my kids are like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I mean, even if the plan is just like today we're just staying home, so dig into something, then they know to like go and play. But Saturday was weird because we hadn't really planned things, and we were gifted some awesome leather couches from this community group of ours. So we were going to go pick those up on Saturday, which required my husband and my son to do that heavy lifting and moving. And I needed to get groceries for the week, which my husband ended up doing on Sunday. But in order to know what groceries we needed to clean out our fridge and our freezer. Usually at least once a month, we just take everything out. We have a chest freezer in our garage plus a stand-up fridge freezer combo in our garage, and then we have a fridge freezer combo in our kitchen. So, and with a family of six, that's not even like a crazy amount of food. But we do need to take inventory sometimes, depending on who does the shopping or how much we've been paying attention. Sometimes things will pile up. We noticed a few things where it was like, oh, we definitely don't need more of that, or we forget to take it off the list when we buy it. So going through both our digital lists that we share and the actual fridge and freezer and taking inventory helps us to know how we need to shop for the week. And it also helps us know how to plan meals for the week, because that's another thing that I really like doing over the weekend. It's kind of like, okay, so who's here for what dinners, who's going to make them, and what do we have to make? Because I don't like thinking about that during the week. It really sucks the energy that I like to be putting into my business during the week if I'm like, oh, and what are we going to eat for dinner? So we did the fridge and freezer clean out. We wanted to do something fun with the kids, get out and do something for the holidays. But my middle schooler also got invited to go do something with a friend of his from school that he's never done something with outside of school. So we wanted to honor that, but that meant dropping him off at 5 and picking him up at 9. So in between that, we ended up taking our two little ones. My older son had too much homework. So I think he really wanted to come out with us, but he was feeling torn. Um, Kind of comes with the age and the territory, I think, and it's tough. I think the thing I struggle with the most is the feeling that it wasn't but a few years ago that my husband, Jeff, and I could just say, okay, kids, get in the car. We're going to go have an adventure. And they just pretty much had to comply and we'd all go along. And it was just, we could create family time whenever we wanted to. And that's no longer the way that things are. Now, my oldest has a job or robotics club or his girlfriend or homework, and my middle schooler doesn't always want to do the things that we want to do and would rather stay home and can stay home, or would rather do something with a friend. So there's a lot more outings that are my husband and I and our two little ones these days, kind of our littler family of four going out and doing things, because the older two are kind of starting to do things separately. But that's the best case scenario, right, guys? Like, our whole job as parents is to raise kids and to have them become independent and do things on their own. So it's bittersweet, but it's also perfectly aligned and right on time. So we dropped a middle schooler off to go he was going to go see the Annapolis boat show. They have all these boats that get decorated up with winter lights and stuff, with his friend and his friend's family. And we went and saw some different light displays and some train gardens that we like to visit this time of year with the younger kids. And then we just went out and had a casual dinner at Cafe Rio, some Mexican, and it was great. I mean, little kids are easy. My 5-year-old said at our, easy breezy casual Cafe Rio dinner, this is the best meal I've had all year. And he's said things like that throughout the week about other meals. Like I said to him, I'm like, that's great. If every meal that you eat is the best meal you've ever had, then that's just such a great state of mind to be in, a great mindset, a great attitude. And yeah, I'm not going to try to talk him out of it. I'm not going to be like, hey, don't you remember this dinner we had at such and such a place? Or wasn't that better or whatever? I'm just going to let him enjoy feeling like what he is experiencing is the best ever. Even if sometimes it's McDonald's and he's like, this is the best. Like, oh, but whatever. So we picked up my son and we actually got invited in to go spend some time with the parents of the kiddo that he spent the evening with and their family. So we went in and had a little refreshment together and some adult conversation while the kids all played together. It was actually really nice. Got home, got to bed a little later than normal. It was probably close to 11 before we all got to bed on Saturday. And for me, normally like a normal bedtime is around 9, maybe 10 if it's like really pushing it. But 11 was a little later than normal, but it felt good. It was a good evening, and it was nice to have that time together. And then Sunday morning, I got up with my husband. We worked out. We work out even on the weekends, and we still wake up fairly early. Sometimes we'll sleep until like 6, but that's sleeping in. And normally the dogs won't let us sleep any later than that. So we got up and we worked out. And I had a client that I was seeing at 11 to do a tapping session recording for a podcast that I had been on earlier that week. And so I had that. And while I was doing that, my husband did the grocery shopping. Hallelujah. With the 2 younger kids, double hallelujah. And when they got back, then we actually did get the entire family of 6 together. We went out to Mission Barbecue for lunch and we had an errand or 2 to run. But, hour and a half, 2 hours, all 6 of us together. It was nice. We came back. My husband watched some football. I got some work done. I actually took a nap. I was beat. It's a lot holding up the fort, like when he goes away for a few days. And then he came back. And today, I'm recording this on Monday and I'm reviewing the week before. Today, he left again for another trip. So it's kind of like I hold it up, I hold it up, I hold it up. And then he's home for the weekend, but we didn't really have a great chance to plan. And then he's gone again and I'm holding it up again. So a lot of times I need a nap or just to kind of crash for a bit when he comes back because it's a lot of overload, brain, body, nervous system, just adrenaline dumps, all that stuff just happening. So I just try to honor that and restore while he's here. Another big thing we did over the weekend was getting ready for the holidays. So planning Christmas and Hanukkah for a family of 6, and then all of our parents, our, immediate family, siblings, stuff like that, and figuring out all the gifts, starting to wrap the ones that we had, and figuring out what we still need to order or go purchase or make or whatever else. That was a large chunk of the weekend. And something that I feel like I never honor the amount of time it's going to take and sometimes can get a little grinchy about. I'm going to do an episode on disappointment soon, but I think disappointment comes up a lot, especially for moms this time of year, because we feel like we do so much to make the holidays amazing for everybody. And we kind of are like, when are they going to make it amazing for us? It's a horrible mindset to get into. I don't recommend it, but I think my mind goes there every now and then. And then I have to pull myself back out of it and realize all the blessings and the privilege of actually getting to do that. It's quite the privilege. So we did a lot of holiday planning. And then we spent more time doing the purchasing that needed to be done and figuring out I got to order stuff from the Lego store. I got to order stuff from Amazon. I've got to order stuff from these individualized websites. And I need to make a list of stuff that I have to go out and actually get at physical locations and small businesses in the area. So I got all that underway and also doled out ideas to family members who had asked for them, because that's always something that I'm in charge of too, like giving people links for stuff the kids want or whatever else. So that felt like a big weight off my shoulders, to have that at least organized now. There's still going to be a lot of wrapping to do. And of course, with Hanukkah, it's we have to figure out what are we doing for night 1, night 2, night 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 actually overlaps with Christmas. 7 and 8 overlap with Christmas Eve and Christmas this year. So, actually kind of makes things easier because the kids already have the Christmas gifts coming in from my family on Christmas Eve and Christmas. So we don't really have to plan so much for Hanukkah then. We can just kind of ride with the other traditions. But yeah, and sometimes I think too, with planning and with a week in the life, there's the idea that sometimes things are going to take a different amount of time than they do. And I know for me this past weekend, that was frustrating. The amount of time that I thought I was going to be spending on holiday planning and the amount of time I actually did. When I did as much as I did on Saturday and still had so much more to do on Sunday, finally I was just okay, so this other part of my list that I thought I was going to get done this weekend, I'm just writing it off, putting it off for the next week. And I'm just going to concentrate on finishing up this holiday task because, Hanukkah starts in a week and it's now or never kind of thing. And Christmas is in less than 2 weeks. So that was the priority and it felt really good to get it done. But what I thought would take 2 hours probably took more 5 or 6. So yeah, that can be the most defeating thing as far as to-do lists and scheduling for me, is when something doesn't take the amount of time that I thought it should. But it's another opportunity for awareness, and I'm much better with figuring out time on tasks now than I ever was. And also with accepting the day-to-day stuff that is really what it's all about, why we're here, and the places where we can get present and really enjoy our days. There was a time, and I'm going to wrap up with this thought. There was a time when I think I felt, I don't know if it was resentful or irritated by the fact that it actually took time every day to make food or to carpool kids places or whatever. It's like in my head, I thought that, gosh, if I could just snap my fingers and have dinner or breakfast, or if I could just teleport, then everything would be so much easier and I'd have time for everything. Not ever realizing that that was never an option and that those day-to-day mundane things are like where it's at. And it's a beautiful part of the day. So some days when my kids have all left for school, all I've done at that point, and I say all I've done, and then I think about what it is, and I've done so much, but all I've done is like taken care of myself, exercised, taken care of them, and maybe eaten some breakfast. And there's like actually probably 100 micro steps to all of those things happening. So that's why I say it's kind of funny to think that that's all I did. But I used to beat myself up for that. Be like, oh, why haven't you like, started on this or done that or knocked out a task or two before they got out the door? And now I just accept that. And I'm like, wow, I've really set myself up for the day nicely and the kids as well. And here I am still with the majority of the day in front of me. How beautiful is that? So anyway, that is a week in my life. I'm sure I have left out many things, but I also do not feel like boring you with the details. I hope I have inspired you to maybe look at your life, see what you might like to add or subtract or change. Yeah, dig into it. It's your life, your one and only precious life here in this physical body. So make the most of it and enjoy. And thank you so much for listening. And of course, if you have any interesting takeaways from having listened to this episode, I do love to hear them. And I will do this next December also. Thank you for the opportunity and thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.